you beautiful soul, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm so excited that you're here. So in today's video, I wanted to share something with you that has really been on my heart and I feel like is a topic of conversation in my DMs when it comes to healing, whether that be inner child or generational trauma healing. So I think a lot of us, myself included in the past, we have this idea that all of a sudden one day, we're going to have this aha moment, we're gonna heal, and then everything is just rainbow sunshine and ponies and we're just gonna move on with life and that's gonna be that. So I get a lot of DMs from people being like, oh, like I'm sure you're healed now, but like this is where I'm at. Or, I know that you've come a long way with your healing, and there's almost this energy of like, oh, because you've done all this healing, you probably don't struggle with these things anymore. And I wanna just be honest with you for a second because I have been on this journey for what feels like forever. Honestly, I've been in personal development since like 2012, starting with like my fitness and health. And I only really started prioritizing mental and emotional healing and healing from my childhood and healing from generational trauma only within the last couple of years, to be honest with you. And the thing that I really want you to know is that healing is an ongoing journey. It's not just this final destination. And I'm gonna share a couple of stories with you. So the first one is probably one of the most recent. It was on August 8th, and I had initially planned for myself to go to the spa that day. So I was starting off the day on such a good foot. I had meditated and everything is like great, rainbow sunshines and ponies, right? And then I don't know if something had happened with my mom, or she was going through something, or she was really tired. I think it was rainy that day and she has arthritis. So, for a lot of us, our hormones affect our mood, and so we can easily get irritated or triggered. And I'm actually going to insert the entire clip right here so that you can see and just hear me break down what actually happened that day. I filmed this while I was crying in my car, and I actually haven't uploaded it yet just because I've been trying to figure out how to talk about it, but I think this is a perfect example to show you that nothing is rainbow sunshines and ponies. Like, I talk all the time about how I have come such a long way with my family and we're in such a great place now, but it's not always like that. So I'm just gonna include that here, and then I break it down in this video. So I am crying a lot, warning, but yeah.
I've been like this for the past like 10-15 minutes. As much as I talk on here about how much my relationship with my family has healed, and like, trust me, compared to where it was before, we're light years ahead. But sometimes there's these moments that still happen because it's not always rainbow sunshines and ponies. So I come downstairs. I think my mom's having a bad day. This is nothing on my mom, but we're just talking about food, and then she got a little sensitive towards a comment that I made, and then she just started screaming at me, like screaming in my face like she did when I was 7 years old. And it just brought me right back to those traumatizing parts of my childhood. My dad kind of had my back, which I think upset her even more. So I just left. I took my rice and I just went to the back patio and I just cried my eyes out. And like, I'm just sharing this on here because you can do the most healing, and there will still be pockets of time and moments where people will still feel triggered. And honestly, I was kind of in like fight or flight. Like, I didn't know what to do other than just to start crying. But I don't hold it against her. I know she's having a bad day or whatever, and we're just gonna give each other some space, and I'm gonna leave now. But that was my entire childhood, from like my parents and like other family members, which I needed to create a lot of space and I needed to heal from. And this just like reminds me, like, these are things that I will never do as a parent, no matter how triggered I am. Like, I will walk away because I know what it feels like to be on the other end, and it's terrifying.
So yeah, as you can see, I was very emotional, I was very triggered, and that is what healing looks like. I will say I don't have many of those moments anymore. It's not very often that I'm just like sobbing in tears, but that's the thing about especially inner child healing, is that we don't just have one inner child. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions, is that we will heal our inner child, we'll do a visualization or meditation, and we heal from one part of our past and then everything's gonna be great. In NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, healing, something that we are taught and what we teach other people is that you have different parts of your childhood. You have 0 to 7, which is your imprint stage. You have 7 to 14, which is your modeling stage, like you're modeling on other people. And then you have 14 to 21, which is socialization. So we all have that. And so when you really think about it, we have an inner child at age 2, age 5, age 7, age 16, and the things that we experience and the pains and the hurts and the anger, the traumas are all different at each stage. Like the traumas that I experienced when I was 7 years old and witnessing like full blown out fights in my household is so different from the trauma that I experienced when I was 16 years old and got my heart broken and had someone cheat on me. So we have lived such complex lives. Like that's something that I really want you to remember. And I've had to remember is that we have lived so much in our childhood and so many things that we experienced on a day-to-day basis, hour by hour basis, things that we remember, things that we don't remember. And so we can't just expect one day to do some sort of coaching session or meditation and then all of a sudden things just be healed. Like that, we're so complex and it just doesn't work that way. And so what I've realized is the thing about healing is that this is where some people get discouraged and they're like, well, like I'll never be healed, so I'm just not gonna invest in my healing journey, or I'm just not gonna go ahead with it. But it's definitely a really sad thing to hear, because even though you're never done healing, the life that you get to live and experience and the opportunities and the abundance that you get to call in by prioritizing your healing journey is drastically different from if you didn't. And what I mean by this is the healing that I do now is not as heavy, it's not as uncomfortable, and it's not as painful as when I first started my healing journey and there was, maybe some deeper things that I never looked at. Now when I heal, like I cried, obviously that was a really painful moment on August 8th. I was hyperventilating, like it was bad, but that lasted like an hour and a half, not even. By the time that I got in my car, I cried a little bit, I drove to the spot, and then the rest of the day was completely fine. Whereas in the past, because I pushed off my healing, I suppressed my emotions and I didn't allow myself to actually feel into my emotions and all that jazz, that moment could have lasted not only the entire day, but sometimes it would throw me into a depressive episode for like weeks on end. And that is what healing does for us. It gives you the tools to be able to overcome things a lot quicker. It doesn't mean that things aren't going to keep popping up. I still get triggered in a lot of areas of my life on a daily basis, but I've learned and have the tools to see those triggers as teaching moments, and then having the tools to be able to process it in that moment so that it doesn't take over my day. I can overcome my triggers and my challenges in like split seconds compared to before, where I would just be bogged down the rest of the day. Like one tiny little thing that happened in the morning, I could marinate on it and ruminate on it. Even though I'm trying to run away from it, it still has that effect and hold over me for the rest of the day. When it comes to this idea that, oh, I'm just gonna be healed, like that's not it, because you are complex and you have an inner child at every stage of your life. And as we go through new milestones in our life now, sometimes the triggers from childhood that were unhealed, like wounds and emotions and pains that weren't healed back then, if we have opportunities in our adult life to heal it, it'll come up. So for example, like I had a lot of sister wounds, like friendship wounds, and for a good period, like those things didn't come up and I was actually healing things like financial trauma. But then when I started getting into really close sister friendships a couple years ago, all of those triggering moments and things from the past started coming up. Just like how I've been single for the past like 5 to 6 years because I've been focused on my healing journey, I know for a fact that when I get into my next relationship, even though I have a lot of tools now, there will still be things that pop up while I'm in that situation or event that is going to trigger me. But now I have the tools to be able to heal from them. And I think that's the thing, is that if we have this expectation that it's just gonna be one and done, like one session, one visualization, one meditation, all's gonna be good in the hood, I'm gonna be healed, and like world, like I'm coming for you, you will receive a very harsh wake-up call, and you will always feel like you're never doing enough, that you're a failure, and that there's something wrong with you. If you look at the picture of a stock market, right, like the trends of a stock market from when the stock market first started to where it is now, the one thing that is constant and the one thing that we do know and is guaranteed about the stock market is stock market goes up and down. It goes up and down. Even when we hit inflations and recessions, or even when we're at the peak, it always goes up and down. But when you look at it at a glance, the stock market is always going up. So when we look at ourselves and our journey and our life, I feel like we get so caught up in the ups and the downs. And then when we're in the down, we feel like, why am I here again? Like we think, we have this feeling and this thought that I'm right back where I started. Like, how come I can't do this shit? Like, I put all this time into my personal development journey, into my healing journey, and I'm right back where I started. I'm so frustrated. And we have all these stories. But when you pull yourself out of it, every single teaching, every single trigger that you've overcome, every single experience that you overcome, every heartbreak, everything that you process, those are all things that make you more wise. They give you life experiences. Like, life experiences is what makes you wise. And so when you have that wisdom and you have more tools and more teachings and more experiences to pull from, how on earth can you actually tell yourself that you are back at square one? Because you're not. There's no way. You're too much evolved. You have too many more tools. You have so much more experience and wisdom to pull from. There's just no logical way that you are back at square one. And so that has really helped me in my personal development journey, is looking at myself like the stock market and being like, even when I'm in those low moments, I don't beat myself down as much as I used to in the past. I remind myself that this is just a different low than I've had before. I'm more evolved and I get to overcome this and move on from this a lot quicker. In my developmental psychology class, like years ago, we were taught that our brains develop psychologically at different rates than other people. And in my culture, we are taught to listen to our elders, like with this skewed idea and like this notion that age matters. Even if they are wrong, you cannot say anything because they are older than you, so you have to respect them. But in my healing journey, I have literally learned firsthand that age is just a number. And that has like fucked me up in all the different ways, especially in my coaching, because majority of my clients, if not all of my clients, are actually my elders. Like, they are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. Just because they're older than you does not mean that they're more wise than you or that they know more than you. And age is honestly just a number. I'm gonna challenge you to just view yourself as a stock market. When you do, you start seeing your highs and your lows in a completely different way. You're able to have more compassion for yourself when you are in those low moments. And just remember that even the people that you see on social media, I feel like we see a lot of people being like, oh my goodness, like I had this spiritual awakening and this moment and I healed and I'm like, everything's just rainbows, sunshines, and ponies, and it's so great. Majority of people, especially influencers and the people and the coaches and the mentors that we look up to, it is easier for us to share when we're at that like shiny place in our life where things just look so perfect. But it's definitely really difficult to show those moments when you're still in the rawness and you're in the dark tunnel or the void, because it's not sexy. And when you're in that moment, sometimes it's really hard to pull yourself out of it, to be like, this is just gonna pass. So it's easier to share when you're at the end, because you're like, oh, here's like my entire journey. But then that creates a cycle. We're like, wow, like we will get to this point where like everything's great. But then once they get to that point, they stop sharing about their journey. And so then we have this idea that this is what healing should look like. But healing is messy. Some days you're on a high and you're doing great. And then some days you are feeling really low and you're triggered. And that's just the evolution of life. If you've ever been in that position where you've thought that your healing journey has to be this like, all of a sudden one day everything is great, please remind yourself that that is like a fairy tale. And unfortunately, that's not real life. And the more that we allow ourselves to think that way, the more that we're gonna be let down, and the more that no matter how much we grow and evolve, we're not gonna be proud of where we're at. Everyone talks about these quantum leaps and how, oh, I've quantum leaped. But it's the baby steps added together, the compounding, that actually leads to the quantum leaps. So don't lose sight of the baby steps by focusing so much on the quantum leap, because you will get there. And what I'll end this off with is, your healing journey is gonna be the most beautiful journey that you've ever been on, no matter how hard it is. Remind yourself that it's happening for you for a reason. And every single time you always learn and grow and evolve. And those are teachings and wisdom and experiences that makes you more wise, that makes you a person that other people can relate to and connect with. As I'm sharing my story now, creating YouTube videos and recording episodes for my podcast, I always reflect back on those really tough moments in my life where I almost gave up on my life, gave up on my business, gave up on a lot of things. And I just sit in pure gratitude that I experienced those things. Because had I not, you wouldn't be here right now. Me and you talking. I wouldn't have these stories that make you feel so seen. The reason why I relaunched is because of the video that's still going viral now, where I share that I'm first generation and the older sister healing generational trauma. And the amount, hundreds of thousands of comments from people saying that they resonate with me. They're the black sheep. They're healing generational trauma. They're the oldest, the youngest, the middle, the only. Had I not experienced those things at one point, I wouldn't be here with you right now. So know that everything that you've experienced is for a bigger purpose. It makes you look at your life, your story, your past, and everything that you've ever experienced in such a beautiful, beautiful light. So I love you so much. Thank you so much for being here. And as always, if you have any questions, any comments, like feedback or constructive criticism, like definitely leave them down below or shoot me an email. I love you so much. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already and hit the bell notification so that you don't miss another video, and help me like and comment, because those are things that helps these videos go out and reach more people. And together we get to just co-create this community and grow this mission, this community of like big sister vibes. Also, I have decided that our community name is the Lotus Fam. What do you think? Isn't it so cute? Like, it's kind of cheesy, but it's also really cute in a way. And I'm actually gonna do another video on this, but I'm gonna start calling you my Lotus Fam. You're my little lotuses. I feel so connected to that, not only because I am Buddhist, but also because I'm very connected to the flower, the lotus, because lotuses are one of the only, if only, plants or flowers that actually blooms from the mud. So there's a lot of spiritual significance with the lotus. And when I look and connect with all of you, I see beautiful lotuses, because I see the pains that you've experienced. I've seen, I see the hurts that you had to overcome, blooming out of the mud to be the beautiful flower that you are today. So I love you, my little lotus, and I cannot wait to connect with you in the next episode. So I love you. I can't wait to see you. Bye.